Good evening and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It is me, Rich, here for our match reaction show. Premier League football is back. I'm also joined by Kev, Mr. KT, AVFC. Kev, football is back, but are we now wishing that we had a little bit of time to wait, or are we wishing that the World Cup was back?
Yeah, I wish it was another couple of weeks of the World Cup, mate, if I'm honest. Yeah. Let's wait for the Wolves game, maybe, although they won, didn't they? So, yeah, painful, mate, painful.
Exactly. Before we get stuck in, thanks to everyone joining the Villa Park Pod YouTube channel. We're very, very close. I think we're 12 away from 750. So if you are watching and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please give a like on the video, and yeah, thanks for everyone's support. It'd be great to hit that 750 before the new year. And considering we've been starting since August, it's just fantastic to see us making that progress. Something that we thought we'd have progress on, Kev, was before the international break, before the World Cup break, was Villa. 2 wins, back-to-back wins in the league, first away win of the season, and obviously since May, I think it was last year, beating Man United. We thought Boxing Day game against Liverpool, 5:30 kickoff, home game. We thought all positivity coming through, but yeah, it just wasn't quite. It's that little bit. It's always a hope that kills you. I'm trying to think. Maybe anticlimax is the right word.
Yeah, anticlimax is very much a way to describe it, because there was hope after Emery obviously start to the Premier League era. His era with the Villa in the Premier League, getting that long-awaited victory against Manchester United, which obviously was a really, really big win. Yeah, it was just. I mean, it's classic Villa. I mean, we'll be sat here with grey beards and grey hair in a nursing home on what will it be then? Like, I don't know, 12G or something, connection. Talking about how Villa won a game, we're feeling good about the next game, and then they basically messed us around. And do you know what? I find myself saying, like, constantly with sport lately, like missed opportunities. And I know that not every team can win, and not every player can win every event they play in single tournament play, whatever. But when you're playing against Croatia in 2018, Italy in 2020, 21 / whatever it was, France in the recent World Cup, or your Aston Villa playing against Stoke under Martin O'Neill and you squander a 2-goal lead, or you're playing against a Liverpool team today that I don't think were that good.
No.
I don't think they're that good. Now, they've got some pretty potent players, and that ball from Alexander-Arnold, wow, by the way, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I think he's the only person. Well, him and Robertson were the only people on the ground that saw that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Pass.
Yeah. Well, I saw it from my seat, and yeah, but I know what you mean. Saw the possibility of it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, those are the kind of. Look, we know we're not good enough, and we know we're good enough to win some games, and we're also going to then lose some games, and it's the inconsistency. But it's frustrating when you play a game out today, you miss the chances that you miss, you can concede the goals that you concede. It's just more frustrating. I'd much rather have a situation where you go toe-to-toe to someone and maybe lose 3-2, because at least it feels like you were in the game somewhat. So lots to unpack, mate. Lots to talk about. I'm sure the comments will help us as well. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, of course. So, I sound like Steven Gerrard there again. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Delve into it. I felt like, obviously the score was Villa 1, Liverpool 3, and we started the game off with some reasonable chances, and both teams playing quite high lines, and it looked like whether Emery wanted to get off to a fast start and then kind of sit back, potentially that was what he was doing, but it looked like a little bit of a diversion from the usual Emery of kind of sitting deep and then catching on the break. Both teams are kind of going toe to toe, and it felt like we were going toe to toe with Liverpool.
Yeah, it's a bit of a basketball game at one point. It was, and in that kind of situation, then if you're not great at finishing and finishing off your chances, then if it's end to end, then the ones that are better at converting chances are likely to do better, as opposed to a slow game where you try and eke out a chance where you can. It'd be good if someone could tell me this in the comments, actually, because I've not seen many replays. I did watch the highlights back while I was obviously waiting for us to get the pod going. And there's only about 3 minutes of highlights on Amazon Prime. There's loads of stuff I didn't see from what I could see from the highlights. But there was a great ball from McGinn, almost kind of a hopeful sort of dink over the top that fell perfectly for Watkins, maybe 15 yards out. And I was saying to my lad next to me, like, why didn't he just smash it? Can someone tell me if I've got this wrong, or if anyone who saw it, because I was at the game, maybe even you can tell me, Rich, but as a footballer, one of the best things you can have as a footballer, at whatever level of football you're at, is the ball bouncing in front of you. To whether you do a dipping volley, whether you put your foot through, and it almost felt like he tried to sort of like place it with a lofted shot in the corner when the keeper was off his line. That to me was
that the one? Was that? I think that might have been the one where he got through a gap between Van Dijk and Matip.
Yeah, the ball was dipped over the top, and it fell for him. And he didn't seem pressure when he shot.
Yeah, I think he was under a bit of pressure, maybe caught off balance from it. I think he probably in that situation, he probably did the best he could in that situation. I mean, the two headers that he missed in the first half. Was it 2 headers that he missed? One was a great ball from McGinn, and I think he maybe missed another one. You're thinking you've got to be putting those chances away, and Leon Bailey missed a couple. But in terms of like the two main strikers on both sides, they both seem to be quite similar in terms of their approach. Like work very hard, cause some problems for the centre backs, but couldn't finish. Nunez was very similar.
This all caused some problems for the centre backs. Like, do you remember Katie Price, Jordan? You remember her ex-boyfriend, that cage fighter? What was his name?
Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he caused a few problems for a few centre backs. Like,
but I mean, Watkins tends to play well against Liverpool. Like Van Dijk always has a tough game against him. I get what you're saying. That's just a basic minimum that they should be causing issues to centre backs. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And it is disappointing because if you think about what we got for Watkins for 30 million, what did Liverpool pay for Darwin?
60, 70 million, was it?
I mean, so I heard someone behind me say if he catches a bit of form, he'll be unbelievable. But honestly, like I think he was watching too much of Watkins.
That's what kind of makes it slightly more annoying. I know we've got a few comments. We'll get to them in a second as well. But we've makes it slightly more annoying. I mean, they started with Oxlade-Chamberlain. They had one or two other sort of not necessarily their first choice players. And you're thinking that was a potential. I know we keep saying it, but that was a potential one where we go after them and really, really stick it to them. But after the initial sort of 10 to 15 minutes, they kind of got a real foothold in the game. We get 2 sloppy goals from set pieces, and then you're chasing it. And unfortunately, against a team like Liverpool, you even with players missing, you're giving yourself so much to do. But it just smacks of that missed opportunity.
Yeah, mate, it really does. And if you look also at Liverpool team as well, I mean, who did we have away at the World Cup? Martinez, Dendoncker, Bednarek and Cash. None of them played today any minutes. Liverpool had Henderson, obviously played quite a bit for England, went quite far. Van Dijk got to knockout stages with Holland. Alexander-Arnold didn't play much, but obviously was away at the camp, and obviously that would be taxing, whatever. As well as obviously other players, clearly not Robertson, lols. But but they would obviously have, you'd think, be more physically exerted than Aston Villa would be. They've got a couple of players in the team that maybe were a bit weaker. Even some of the subs they brought on, they brought on that the one who scored the 3rd goal, that Doku looked all right, but they brought on Gomez. He's not played much. Elliot, and it is just frustrating. And the thing is this, and I'm sure we'll go through some of these comments, but I think it's going to be touched in there before. But like, it's Emery will know he's won some good stuff in his career, and if you're Unai Emery and you're relying on Ollie Watkins to be getting your goals in the Premier League, in the FA Cup, whatever it's going to be, to push you to Europe, then you're going to be waiting a long time. As horrible as it sounds, but you are.
Yeah. Well, let's get into a few comments, and then so Gary and Rachel are in saying hi. Gary, at least we fought all the way, but we were short in the main areas, especially forwards, and Watkins is so hit and miss. It's unbelievable. I mean, 4 good chances today, and he puts 1 away. I mean,
yeah, and even the one where it was offside, when he hit the keeper's legs, still got. I mean, you've still got to put it in. The one where you think is off balance, I'd like to see it back. I felt like it was in front of him, and he should have just put his foot through it. Bit of power. There's the header, which I felt like if he headed it towards goal rather than down, it would have got to goal quicker, and therefore the keeper wouldn't have had a chance. Instead, does that make sense? Normally they say head it down, don't they? But I thought that was one where you've got to just go towards the goal as quick as you can. Was a good header for the goal he scored, but and there was also that one where when Bailey scuffed it, but Watkins actually miskicked it first, and then Bailey miskicked it afterwards. So there's probably 5 or 6 chances, and in the Premier League, well, I'll tell you what, I think Danny Ings would score more than one. I think Cameron Archer would score more than one of those chances. Whether they would be in the positions to get the chances is another point. But yeah, you've got to take your chances in the Premier League against teams like Liverpool. If you don't take your chances, and Watkins is not known for taking his chances, really.
Well, and especially if you're letting goals in off set pieces, so sloppily, for want of a better word, you're gonna give yourself real problems, and we'll get to the substitutions, and we'll get to one or two of the individual players, shortly. The old Fowler, George in the house, bit naive in our approach today. I thought they swarmed as we were trying to play out. You probably know a bit more from being at the game. What did it feel like when we were trying to play the ball out from the back? Was it a bit more structured? Was it still kind of really sort of what's the word, tentative, like of us trying to play forwards?
Yeah, I just don't think we've got the personnel for it. And I'd go even all the way back, as controversial it might sound, to any of our goalkeepers. I'd include Emmy in that. Because if Uno wants to play out from the back, you need a goalkeeper that's confident. Olsen, a couple of times, looked like he was, I don't know, we won a prize basically to be in goal, like every aspect of it. The kicking wasn't great. He spooned a clearance, early on, which set the tone. Kicked the ball out of play. It's just difficult. I think it's worked in other games in Emery, to be honest, and it has. And I've given us credit where we created a bit of space to then go on attacks. But I don't know whether today Liverpool's press and intensity made that a lot harder, because it felt like it was difficult to get out, and then you play like a long hope for ball up the line, and then they've got their big lumbering, whether it's Fabinho, Van Dijk, Matip, just sort of storming in. You've got the all energy of obviously Robertson, etc., Henderson buzzing around, and I just think it was difficult. But if that's the only plan we've got, then what are you going to do? It also puts pressure on the likes of the receivers. So whether that's Digne, Young, or whether it's the likes of Kamara and Louise, it puts pressure on them. And if their first touch isn't brilliant, then it sets the tone for what happens next. So it wasn't great today, the playing out from the back. Really, no.
I agree. And if you haven't got that, I always wonder why Bailey's not trying to threaten him behind him if he's got such pace. But then also if you haven't got like
that's why. Because he's not.
If you haven't got a big strong target man up front, then you're always going to be struggling. It's just going to come straight back to you.
Yeah. Bailey, don't get me started on Bailey. And I've been on a pod with Sam where I was like, actually, you know what, Sam? Yeah, I agree. I think he's pretty good. He needs a chance in the team. Oh, he's shit. And in 2 weeks he'll score 4 goals, and I'll be like having to backtrack a bit. But he's just nothing, Bailey. Nothing. I don't know what. He was 30 odd million as well. Honestly, I reckon I could go for 18 million at 42 in a month if these players are going for 30 million. What does he do? Bailey can't control the ball. He can't. I've never seen him go past anyone. He's supposed to be a tricky winger. He totally air-shotted 2 shots today. 2 shots. Missed. That is just not good enough. And yeah, he has moments. And at home, he's supposed to be good. Away we say he's goes a bit missing. Another one while we're on the ones that didn't turn up. Emi Buendia from Argentina. Cyber Villa from Carrow Road. He's better on the bench. Because when he's on the bench, we can talk about how shit Coutinho is and how we need to play Buendia and how great he'll be. But once again, from the start, he was rubbish today, Buendia. Rubbish.
Let's get into these the Grealish replacements. Then. So obviously,
no,
that's fine. Obviously, Bailey and Buendia started. and Ings came on for the last 10 minutes, which he's not going to have a lot. Now you could argue, maybe Ings, like you said before, might have finished better, whatever, but maybe he doesn't get into those positions. But yeah, certainly Bailey and Buendia. And I've said this for a long time about Buendia. I just think he's a little bit of a busy fool. Like, I don't know what he actually does that is really productive. Like,
Yeah,
we all wax lyrical because he runs around a lot. We used to wax lyrical, like we talk back in the day. We used to wax lyrical about Dean Saunders because he used to run around a lot. Obviously, he scored quite a few goals as well. Don't get me wrong, but we seem to have this thing at Villa, like we just love players that run.
yeah.
But he
When
doesn't. He
McGinn's done
doesn't.
it a lot, hasn't
He doesn't do anything. Like,
he?
he kept
McGinn gets it.
constantly giving the ball away. He was trying certain things. Like, don't get me wrong, you've got to try things. You've got to try and do things that maybe are a little bit out of the ordinary. But when you're not thinking it through and you're letting teams just, when you're doing it when you've got like two at the back, and and then you're going to cause a 3v2 against you, it's just stupidness. And that was my problem. That's my problem with Buendia. I just think he's a little bit of a busy fool. And like you say with Bailey, it's just too inconsistent. There's way too many times where he's just nowhere in the game and he's just not doing enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think he put a few crosses in that looked all right today. But like, if I was on the wing, I'd put a few. If I had no one on me and the ball's played to me, I'd put a few crosses in the box. I don't know who Gary's referring to there. Is he on about Bailey?
I think Bailey, I think it's saying you're a bit harsh.
Mate, he was shit, Gary. He was, mate. He was shit. He doesn't do anything. Like, he's air shotted 2 shots today. He's £30 million footballer. You can't be doing that. Like, he's just not good enough. Buendia, I think mate, it's a perfect description. He's a busy fool. I love the intensity and effort. I said a couple of times when you were in a bit of a flow like I was before that it's like McGinn. We used to give McGinn loads of credit, didn't we? Because he'd run around and he'd get stuck in. And do you remember when he ended up being out for about 3 months because he broke his ankle doing exactly that against Southampton? And he charged in because he gave the ball away about a minute before, charged in on the side, and then basically broke his ankle, didn't he? But you need more than that. And sometimes I think, is it the players around them? I try and like think, well, maybe it's not them. Maybe Coutinho would be better if he had better runs, better players, better sense, defensive midfielders. But you get too many players that are hit and miss. And today, whether that's, as we say, Ings didn't get much of a run out, so you can't talk about Ings too much today. But when Dean and Bailey were the ones brought in to be the creativity, hence the tag here, the Grealish replacements, the ones brought in. And what do they do, really? Buendia's done nothing. I mean, there's been a lot of talk for a long time. He's got to start. Well, I can't think of many times he started and he's done anything. And then you add to that the inconsistency of Douglas Luiz, the inconsistency and poor finishing of Watkins. You're going to struggle to score.
Exactly. I agree. I also think, hopefully, and I know quite a few people have said, Emery, Gary said there, unless we sign a completely new team, I feel these players will never finish above 10th. Emery will hopefully see this by now. Just talk about, signings that we're going to make, and Emery seeing what we've got at the moment and just seeing what we need, because in my opinion, it just seems like we've signed too many of the same type of player.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like the rumors of João Felix, whatever, he's a phenomenal player, but is he like the profile of the player that we need, like in terms of like strength, physicality, like giving us something a bit different? I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, he'd be an excellent player, but is he what we need? Because you look at those set pieces today, weren't particularly great deliveries, but we're weak off them, especially with the goalkeeper that we've got, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Every time if we're trying to play out from the back, we haven't got that. Kamara is good. Don't get me wrong. He can play nice passes. He takes the ball positively, but is he really that strong at holding people off? Is he really that powerful at driving through midfield? If we have to go that route one, are we going to win enough balls up top to set the play? I don't know. So I don't know what João Felix is going to do if we are anywhere near it, looking at getting him, which I don't think we are. But I just think I just think that's in my opinion. I just think we need 2 or 3 players that are 6'2" plus and quick and powerful. I think we need to get a bit more nasty in terms of physical profile.
Yeah, strength and physicality, mate. You said it, and I totally agree. Liverpool today, whatever happened, and we had a lot of the ball that first 20, 25 minutes of the second half, particularly. But you put a cross in the box, and you've got Matip, you've got Van Dijk, and then you've also got Fabinho. And anytime a ball was played into a player, the referee was shite again today. He was shite. I mean, it was so bad in terms of some of the clear fouls. But anyway, we are where we are. It feels like, being a Sporting England and a Sporting Villa, like we've had some pretty bad refereeing performances, but maybe everyone feels the same about their own club and country, whatever. I'm sure there's France fans talking about it, anyway. But the ball gets played in, and you've got these absolute units just going straight behind and clearing out the ball, and basically, thou shalt not pass, and it makes a massive, massive difference to any kind of team. Now, I think we've actually kind of got that when you consider that you might have Carlos, Mings, and Dendoncker, whether they're good enough. Obviously, Carlos remains to see how he will return. Well, A, return from his injury, and B, also adapt to the Premier League because he's only played 2 games.
Yeah,
I think we like to think, but also he's not massive, is he? He's not huge.
no,
He's wide.
he's a big presence. Yeah.
But he's
I know
not.
what you mean.
He's not
He was getting beaten in the air off Kiefer Moore in that first game of the season. So
yeah. Well, I think a lot of people get beat by air by Keith Moore, but I get your point. Konza and Mings today didn't look anywhere near the level of Matip and Van Dijk. And maybe they're not, right? Maybe they're just not. The reality is they're not good enough. But I mean, the ball's over the top, and they were just, there's one win they were getting. Was it Salah when he outpaced with the ball? Konza. Konza's supposed to be quick. Salah was with the ball, controlling the ball, a few touches, and it was moving away from him. So the physicality is not there, but I also don't think the quality is there from those players in that position, and it's a worry. We're conceding goals, and it's not good.
Yeah. Well, talking of conceding goals, what's his name? Old Robin Olsen kept up his consistency of letting in 3 goals a game.
He loves it.
And even though he made some good saves today and was marginally better than he has been previously, he just hasn't got that influence on the back 4, has he, at all, or the whole team? Like that, he just seems so erratic, and he just seems to set panic through the defense.
Yeah, it feels a bit like he probably gets a harsher rating and review from people, but he isn't inspiring any confidence in the people in front of him, and that is a worry, And I think that the fans are not that confident in him. And there was a time when he caught quite a fairly routine ball and almost looked like he fell over when he did it in the first half, if I remember.
Isn't he Sweden's Player of the Year or something? Or
he's had
Goalkeeper of the Year
63
7 years in a row. Yeah,
63 caps for Sweden. I mean, he must have a decent game in him at some point. And to be honest, I don't think he's the reason we've lost today of any of the goals. I mean, maybe he charged out again. So someone can tell me, did he charge out a bit too early for the 3rd goal? Maybe he did. Could he? I think the Van Dijk goal was across a few bodies, and it took a little bit of a nick, didn't it? But I'm not sure about that. And I don't think there's anything you could do about the first goal, which is a great ball, great cut across the box. But yeah, he just didn't inspire any confidence. And as old George says there must have been through on goal 7 or 8 times. And actually, let's be clear about it right now. If Darwin Núñez wasn't so shit today, that could have been 6-6 or 7-1.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we had a fair few chances as well, but I definitely take your point. But was it also? I don't know about you, but the atmosphere seemed pretty subdued. And when it's that type of thing, then you tend to hear sort of the players shouting, screaming. I didn't necessarily see Olsen shouting too much when when there were situations in our box or shouting at players or anything. I didn't really see any. Like you think sometimes if it's a big start for you against Liverpool in goal, you want to stamp your authority on the game. I didn't really see him doing too much of bossing people around, telling players where to be or anything like that. I didn't really see that kind of hyping up the atmosphere.
Yeah, I sit fairly centrally, just sort of like to the right, on the Holt side of the Trinity side. So I was a bit far away from him in the first half, but I didn't get that sense. The atmosphere was a little bit subdued. I think it's because obviously it was an early goal, and that didn't help, and it was an avoidable early goal. I think in terms of like the general defending, or at least leading up to it, and obviously we'd had a chance before that as well, which I think people felt like something could have been done better with. But it was a little bit subdued. Obviously, it's cold, but you think there'd be a bit of an atmosphere. Liverpool fans were obviously in good voice because they got an early goal, and we're cock a hoop obviously when they extended that lead. But yeah, I think the issue was in that first half was that there was just a lot of stray passes, a lot of the ball being put out of play, people miscontrolling the ball, particularly the creative players, ones you'd expect to be doing better. It says a lot, really, when I think that maybe Ashley Young was as good as anybody today again. And
I thought he was pretty poor first half, but second half he definitely upped
but
his game, as did one or two others. We'll get into second half because obviously we did start to perform a bit better, and Watkins got the goal after we'd missed another 2 or 3 really good chances. So yeah, first of all, kind of good header from Watkins, and one of the probably the toughest header that he had out of the lot, to be honest. And credit to him for the finish, Kev.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes a change for him to put the ball where he wants to put it, and he did it obviously back across the goal, which was absolutely the right thing to do, and it went in, and he seemed obviously really buoyed by it when he did it, which is great. And I thought maybe this would give him a little bit of a boost, bit of a tonic, but didn't really get any more chances after that. From what I remember.
No, yeah, we were sort of, the crowd got going and we were back on the front foot, but Liverpool sort of stamped out any real impetus that we had, and moves on to my next point where we criticised Southgate in the England setup in that quarterfinal against France for when we were on the front foot and it looked like the balance of power was shifting back again to France. He didn't make any changes. Today we were on the front foot and the balance of power was shifting slightly back to Liverpool, and once again Emery didn't make any changes. Now, is that a slight criticism of Emery? Like when in the ground, could you feel like that we needed something? We needed a fresh impetus, not necessarily with 10 minutes to go after we've already gone 3-1 down.
Yeah, I think he should have gone Ings or Archer for Watkins earlier. I think when he missed so many chances, and I know maybe he got the goal and he thought, well, I'll keep him on because he scored. I definitely felt like Buendia should have been hooked earlier. Although not that Coutinho did anything, but I felt like it should have happened. I think is we weren't full of options, were we? Were you going to throw Caden Young on for his full debut? Probably not. Really, then you had Dendoncker, Bednarek, Chambers. You didn't have loads of options really on the bench. No Sanson as always. Clearly he's off somewhere, so it wasn't like we were full of attacking threat off the bench. But I don't know. I mean, what does Archer got to do to get minutes? Another manager, obviously, who's not doing that, and if Ings isn't getting on yet, then what's Archer going to do? Yeah, but
Gary's saying, "Can we get Jack back?" I've only dreams.
Yeah,
we had Coutinho, Dendoncker, Ings, Cash, Marshall, the sub goalkeeper, Callum Chambers, Jan Bednarek, Caden Young, and Cameron Archer, and he obviously waited until the 86th minute to make any changes. So maybe he felt his hands were tied slightly, but yeah, I think maybe Coutinho a bit earlier.
It was too late. I agree. I think that look, you can see things work out. Manager's a genius, isn't he? If he brings on 2 players and one assists the other one to score in a 1-0 win. But yeah, I just felt like we should have tried a bit early to try and change it. And and there's another thing with Emery where look, I'm all on the Emery train, and great start. Obviously, that wasn't great, but there's a comedy made in the post match, which. And I've got to say, I watched the Amazon Prime post-match interview, and I also watched on the BBC. And I'm hoping it's a language issue, because I'm sure he said on both of the interviews that when Liverpool scored the first goal, the game was finished after the first goal. I hope he meant the third goal, because if there was any sort of sense in his mind that an early goal from a team in 90 odd minutes of the game left with injury time, is going to cause you problems, it's a bit of a worry. That might just be a total like red herring, and he didn't mean it like that. The third goal, maybe, or the second goal, whatever. But the substitutions, wasn't great. I mean, his post match, he was like, obviously doesn't want to lose, but there's plenty of things to work with. But there's plenty of things that need addressing and addressing quickly. I mean, I was waiting for the game today and just saw the Liverpool score. Sorry. Saw the Newcastle score.
I know. Second in the league, man.
Bottom of the league they were, like last year, weren't they, this time last year? And that team, Longstaff, I mean, they've got loads of players. Target. Yeah, they've got loads
is Digne any better than Target? That's a question for you.
Yeah, is Watkins any better than Davis? We play this game. If we should get something trending, like a little hashtag. Is X any better than? Because I think it's a good question, mate. It's a good question. Their team today.
Sorry, Target was on the bench. Sorry, Target was on the bench.
He's in the squad. He's influencing the team, isn't he? In the squad. That's why he's there. They're I know it's easy to say this, right? But Joe Linton, Burn, Shaw, Wood, Willock. Murph.
Wood was up front for them. Yeah.
Like it's.
Almiron is just incredible at the minute, but like last season he was poor.
They've got intensity, that team. They play on the front foot. They've got belief. I mean, penny for James Maddison's thoughts. Saw a picture of him looking absolutely royally cheesed off. Went to Qatar, didn't get a single minute, and then he's on. Obviously not playing today, and they're losing 3-0 home. But anyway, back to the Villa.
Yeah, no, it is. It just makes it all the more annoying, to be honest. But fair play to them. Quick word on. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but it probably links to reinforcements in January. But just the fact of that poor finishing, and if you want to have a chance of beating the top four, as we did against United, you've got to take your chances early, and we just didn't do it. And when we didn't take our chances, the time when we were on top, and you just can't do that, can you? The only thing I would say about it, as well as with the poor finishing, is the goalkeeper didn't have to make any brilliant saves.
Yeah, when you're in a bit of a rush in your car and you're behind someone at a junction, and I've got so many opportunities on a busy road to go, and you're like, go, just keep missing chance after chance after chance after chance after chance. That's what it feels like watching Villa. Because the confidence for me, he's not there. And didn't Watkins have a finishing coach in the summer?
Yeah.
Was it Austin McPhee? I don't know. I don't know who it was. But listen, the work rate, Watkins, all that kind of stuff. We need an upgrade.
Look, this is what strikers will get judged on, unfortunately. And if he's getting more chances now, then fair enough. He might score the 1 or 2 more goals, but your chance, like your finishing ratio's got to improve. It's got to.
He actually did a good finish. When it was offside, when he was playing, and that actually was a good finish. But I mean, it's funny, and this might mean nothing, but even when he warms up, and I watch the warm up, sometimes I'm thinking his finishing's not great.
Yeah, but like Bailey, you said 2 air shots. He's got to be doing better. McGinn, like so many, he had a very good second half, actually, John McGinn. But there's times in that second half where you just think, like you say, you've just got to pull the trigger, like just just have a shot. Louise, have a shot. You just don't know. It could bounce off the keeper. We're they're just that little bit too tentative, and not going to criticize or anything like that, because some of the bits and bobs that we were doing were good. Some, the effort was there. And I think Alfie's commented there. Liverpool are a better team. Just ask yourself how many of our players will get into their team. Not saying we're bad, but we aren't there. We aren't yet there. So expecting wins against a lot of these teams. Absolutely, you take it before the game. You think you're in a tough game, and it's same for Tottenham away on Sunday. It's going to be a tough game, but when you're in the situation where the team sheets are out, you're at home, you start fairly on the front foot, you're creating these chances. You're thinking like there's an opportunity there, and when you get presented with those chances, you're like Watkins or Bailey are paid that money to finish them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. It is tentative. People don't want to have a shot. Buy a ticket when the raffle, and that's a confidence thing, because maybe they're thinking, well, maybe I'll get a bit of grief if I don't connect it well. Tentative at the back. There's a couple of times when we're giving the ball away, silly positions. One with Dini, which was just ridiculous, where kind of went across his own box, and I think in both boxes. But I also think, mate, and this is something I think definitely should talk about here. We're tentative in the middle of the pitch. I don't think we're brave enough in the middle. Kamara showed some lovely touches today, but I don't think he did anything. Couple of nice.
He definitely didn't carry the ball. He didn't break the lines.
It's easy to post pass completion rates if you're just passing it like 2 yards to the side and 2 yards to the back. It's easy.
It's what we used to say about David Luiz. It's what we used to say about Douglas Luiz all the time. It was great. His passing completion rate was 98%, but all he was doing was getting it off one centre back and passing it to the other centre back. Like, he was never taking any real risks, and that's, I suppose that's one thing with Buendia, is at least he's taking the risks. The problem is he's not necessarily thinking about the players around him. But yeah, it's just a bit it was just erratic and disjointed today, and maybe it's a case of, the back after Boxing Day, maybe there'll be some more cohesiveness against Tottenham. But we were saying, obviously this is a great time for Emery to get his thoughts embedded into the players, and I just felt it was a wee bit disjointed. I don't know if you saw much in terms of Emery ball, or players being more kind of cohesive, being at the ground or not.
Yeah, I tell you what, it seems a bit more. There's a few more forward balls happening. There's a few less aimless crosses in the box happening. Definitely. And to be honest, I was thinking, if we created a lot more chances than we used to do under Gerrard against a decent team, we did. So you've got to take some positives from that. But yeah, we just need personnel changes through the spine of the team, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think Rachel mentioned Danjuma, and we're in talks with him. I don't know a huge amount about him, other than he played for Bournemouth. He looked okay, and then he's done very well at Villarreal. I know he's pretty quick, so we'll see what he's like. He could be another, inconsistent type player for us. I don't know. Tammy maybe, and then Pau Torres in the summer. All depends with centre backs, whether what he does with the ones that he's got. I mean, I don't think Konsa and Mings covered themselves in glory today, and we'll see how much what Diego Carlos is like when he comes back. But we could be looking at new centre backs. It may be closer to the summer.
Well, mate, we're talking about consistently on this pod for ages now. Strength and physicality being a problem, and I think we're talking about pace being a problem as well. And if you look about any kind of sport, right, there's probably three major. I mean, maybe four with mentality, right? Mentality, strength, physicality, speed, and agility/skill, right? Well, our finishing ain't great, and our defending ain't great. We're not that strong. We're not that quick, and I think we're a bit weak mentally when we go behind. So it's not the best recipes for success.
At least the only direction is up from there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Pace is a problem. So I don't know much about Dante either.
Pace was like, I mean, there was a couple of times like Salah straight from our corner ran the length of the pitch. We couldn't catch him, and that was with the ball. He had the ball. And then we had a situation with Nunes twice that outpaced our defenders. It's definitely an issue.
Although I would say with Nunes outpacing, I'm not sure they actually did outpace. I think they were like back to catch him, and they went, it's all right, it's Nunes.
maybe. Although he got man of the match on Amazon, so. Of
course. Yeah. Was it Andy Townsend give him that? Andy Townsend's probably been on the Bailey still this morning. Because if he got man of the match, then I don't know what. My God, what? Because he scores a bit of a nuisance. Brilliant.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, he said there were some good performances on from a Villa point of view, but I did think second half we were a little bit better. Definitely better, and there was positive signs, and it was one of those where we get that moment where we go 2-2, or obviously they got that moment and made it 3-1. But I do think those substitutions that he made, I thought maybe Emery was looking to see who he'd bring on. So he brought Elliott and Cater on. I thought he was waiting to see who he brought on, and then he would make his changes based off that. But he didn't. He waited another 15 minutes, and that was just too late.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, let's hope January we can, momentum is important, isn't it? We're talking about Newcastle's momentum they've got from the results, but if we can bring in a couple of decent signings in January, get a little bit of momentum in the club, get a few more ideas into some of the players, there's definitely good signs there. Definitely, we beat Man United fairly recently. There was a comment I think Alfie's Reef made earlier, like any Villa players will get in the Liverpool team. I understand entirely, but there's plenty of times when a Brighton will beat a team that are better than them. Fulham Fulham 8th in the league.
Yeah,
that there's the point is this: you've got to take that opportunity when it lands on your lap. When it lands on your lap, because I know I've used him as an example the other day, but Jimmy White was up against Stephen Hendry for a lot of his World Championship finals. It's going to be tricky when you're up against the best person at that point. And if you're England and you lose to Brazil, Spain, and Argentina, who then go to win the tournament, then it's going to be tricky. But when you're up against the Liverpool team that looked like they were going to give chances away to you quite consistently, I think you got to take those chances.
Yeah, and Aaron is back in the house. And he's saying he's been telling us that the players just aren't good enough and they can't finish their dinner, let alone the goals. I think that sums it up. Absolutely sums it up. And great to have you back on board, Aaron. We'll be back regular with our shows. And now we're back in. Now the Premier League is back. Yeah, mate. Well, I think we've said it all, to be fair, mate. And slightly a bit disappointing. Some positives, but definitely lots and lots of improvements to make, and lots for Emery to work on. Whether that be with the current players that he's got, or more than likely with bringing new players in. And it does seem to be this kind of flux at Villa where we get rid of players, we bring other players in, take time to bed in, and we've just got to keep seeing that improvement, but also keep with the current manager that we've got, because otherwise we're just going to continually go into this perpetual motion of constant change of manager and players. So yeah.
Give Emery the chance, mate. I totally agree. I mean, he's going to bring in players that he wants to fit around his style of play. So you'll be more confident in the back. You'll create more chances. It'll be interesting to see how much chance he gives some of these players, whether he'll jettison a few early doors. There's obviously talk about a rift with Martinez. I don't know whether I believe that. But players like, I don't know, McGinn, Watkins, Mings, players that have been around for a bit.
I still think every player's on trial. I really do. I still think every player is potentially up for sale. And that does, now Martinez has come back and his stock is high. That potentially includes him, for a big price. So I think all bets are up. All bets are off on our players. I think anything can happen. Anything can happen.
The safest players in that squad are probably Jacob Ramsey, and that's probably it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Bailey, Coutinho, Buendia, Ings might want more first team football. I don't think there's anybody else really that's like a permanent series fixture in that squad. And even Ramsey, there will be questions about whether he's good enough for Emery's system. I mean, it says a lot. Normally, you'd think you could name 5 to 10 players of a squad that would stick around. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for.
Ray just said maybe Kamara.
Kamara, I agree. I agree. We need more from him. Good chat, Ray. Good chat.
Yeah. As Alfie said, there's lots of games to judge him in the next few months, and I'm sure we will. And we'll be here with our comments. So please, like the video that we like our show today. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're very, very close to 750, which would be amazing to get before the new year. We've got Tottenham on Sunday, New Year's Day, which is not going to be easy, but hopefully we can get back to getting a decent result. I'd certainly take a draw if you offered it me now, Kev.
Yeah, we've got some chances to get some momentum. Tottenham are not in great form. I know they come back today, don't they, to get a draw, but they're not in great form. If you can get even a draw, you've got Wolves at home, and you've got Fleetwood at home in the cup.
Stevenage.
Don't know why I said Fleetwood, right? Stevenage, nowhere near each other. Stevenage and Fleetwood as well. Someone was talking about Fleetwood, that's why earlier on it's in my head. You've got Stevenage in the cup. So if you're ever going to have a situation where, Wolves at home, remember the last time we played them, wasn't it, last year? That didn't end too well. Did it have to be internal up? So momentum is important in football. And then if you can do that, bring a couple of players in, come on, let's try and stay positive.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll certainly be back for a match reaction from the Tottenham game. Hopefully, it's a positive one. But we may well be back for a preview show. So please do stay tuned. Please hit make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when our shows are coming out. Kev, it's been a pleasure, mate. I know it's not been the match result that we wanted, but still good to chew the fat with you, mate.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And I think someone put in the comments earlier, was 6 out of 10. It wasn't horrendous today, but there's stuff to work with. But yeah, it's just a bit underwhelming, isn't it? And a bit disappointing. And Christmas, as you said right at the start of the show, mate, there was positivity. Was it 1997 the last time we won 3 league games in a row in the Premier League?
Yeah, it was a long time. Maybe 2007, I think it was.
Oh, maybe I've got
2007. Yeah, not quite that long ago. But yeah,
15 years ago rather than 25 years ago. But
yeah,
you're going to have to put a few wins together if you want to get yourself to the European spot. So
absolutely. Well, let's hope we can get some momentum. And like I say, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for all your comments. You really do make the show. Merry Christmas, everyone, and we'll be back hopefully for a preview show. But if not, we'll be back in the new year for positive against Tottenham. So
thanks all. Merry Christmas all.
We all follow the Villa. Thank you.